Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Enthador. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Dwarf Fortress version 0.43, and we are currently the town of Foresthome. But this episode is going to be a history episode because a couple of you have asked me for one, and I feel it's about time to do one anyway. So let's first of all take a look at the land around the Oaken Flags, our parent dwarven civilization, and we can actually show the civ by going to toggle civ. Now, it is currently the year 166. That's where we are right now in our current fortress of Foresthome. But another number to keep in mind is 156, and that is the year in which Sandpillar was retired and Foresthome up here was created. So Foresthome now is about 10 years old. And I know a lot of you are interested in what's been going on in Sandpillar since we left it. So, let's take a look. Now, Sandpillar is kind of interesting because it still stands. It stands strong. It has not yet fallen. However, there isn't much left of it. There's only 28 dwarves, 2 humans, and 1 goblin, who are the official citizens of Sandpillar. The rest are visitors. We have 38 dwarf visitors, 25 human visitors, and 3 elf visitors. And you would imagine that the majority of them are bards, poets, dancers, that type of thing hanging out in our inn. Although it appears that Sandpillar is still being guarded by our 2 Forgotten Beast outcasts, as well as 18 dogs, which is a lot less than I would have thought we would have. But that's okay. Now, if you'll notice, when we retired Sandpillar in 156, there were a ton of wars. It was just war, tons of deaths, until about 163, 3 years ago. And since then, nothing really has happened to Sandpillar at all. It's as if the goblins, the mangy spider, have decided basically just to leave it alone. And we can double check that by going to the search function over here to the left and doing a search for, where is it? Historical figure, death. Just to see if any of our dwarves died recently. And as we scroll down, we will see that all of the deaths that happened recently were mostly animals. We have a dog, dog, dog. We do have a human who died of old age. A guinea fowl, dog, 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 dog. All dying of old age. In order to find a named dwarf, we have to scroll all the way up to 160, 6 years prior, in the early winter, when the dwarf Turin Tarambar, glaze-braved, was struck down by the human Nako fly lessons in the Steamy Sieges as part of the Bloody War. So that happened 4 years after we retired the fortress, and Turin Tarambar was the last of our named dwarves to fall in the fortress of Sandpillar. And it appears that Sandpillar is now a really peaceful place to be, and the only deaths are coming from those who are dying because of old age. So that's interesting to note. Now let's take a look at our current fortress, that being Foresthome. Now Foresthome, as you can see here, all of our new shrines are listed here, our temples, and our library, the Geared Vault, is even loaded in there. Let's take a look at that. I haven't seen that. Oh, it doesn't really say anything about it. It just says it's a library in Foresthome, which is true. That it is. And we've been doing pretty okay too. And the game still, or not the game, but the program still, though, downplays the amazing success of our sieges. Like, for example, last winter's Squeezing Assault says we only killed 7 goblins. And I feel like, just visually, I saw that we killed more than that, but that's what it says, right? And here are all the deaths. Look at all these deaths that took place at Foresthome. Total of 88 deaths. A lot of them are dwarves. A lot of them are our dwarves. But there's also some random stuff. Like, let's see. I think I saw a Kakapo man. Where was that? Ah, yeah. 2 Kakapo men. Although technically one of them was a Kakapo woman. So the Kakapo man woman. Though they both were struck down in 160. But we know all about Foresthome because we've been living there. So let's talk about some of the other aspects of dwarven history. And there's one that I discovered recently that I find really, really interesting. Let me show you. So we want to go to Summary. We want to go to World Stats. Now, as you see here, The Oaken Flags have only 2,596 citizens and only 34 sites. It's been a hard couple decades for us. As you can see, other dwarven civilizations are doing just fine. We've got the Everlasting Tombs at 4,050 sites. The Lovely Blockade and the Greater Dagger both have over 50 sites. So does the Armors of Charm with 4,069 citizens. So the Oaken Flags have really had it rough. Now, as we scroll down to other civilizations, the Pointy Prairie of the Elves has 7,000. That's fantastic. The Mangy Spider, unfortunately for us, for the Goblins, has 7,000 as well. However, it's a good thing we're not fighting the Uncommon Barbarity. They have almost 14,000 citizens, and the Dungeon of Urging has 9,000. So that's kind of crazy. But what's interesting, that if you look closer at it, you will find that, let's go to, come on, alive. So alive historical figures, there's actually more living dwarf historical figures than any other race, although humans are nipping at their heels. In fact, there's about 4 times almost as many living dwarf historical figures as there are goblins. But as we go further down and look at total populations, you find that the dwarves are actually in 4th place. There's about 27,743 living dwarves, notable and non-notable, 44,000, so a lot more goblins, but then humans at the top with 49,870, and horses, strangely enough, are quite populous in our world, which is neat. So, a lot of dead civilizations, the Dwarven Ring of Stone, 2 elven civilizations, and the basic terrors of the goblins. We never saw any kobolds. I haven't seen any kobolds, but there are 4 surviving kobold civilizations, though one of them only has 1 kobold living in it, poor guy, and they each only have 1 site. But let's go to our Oaken Flags. And the reason I wanted to is because we have a king. This king is Onul Mountain Whip, and Onul has been king for quite a while. But what's interesting is that Onul's parents, so the parents of the current king of our civilization, are Deep Sea Diverman and the Hukaru, which were both citizens of Sandpillar, which I thought was really interesting. And we can look at them, and unfortunately we'll find that both of them died. In 156, Deep Sea Diverman was suffocated by Ushrir shaft busts. That must have been in our tavern brawl. And you'll notice that the king, Onul Mountain Whip, has a sister, Pinkie Pie. Now, it doesn't tell us in this particular program brothers and sisters. It only gives you mothers, fathers, spouses, and children. But we could see here that Pinkie Pie is indeed the king of our civilization's sister. And we could look at... sorry, it's a little unwieldy here, because if you use the mouse wheel here, it just makes this bigger or larger. We looked at the Hukaru. Hukaru also died, only this time in 159. So this was after we left Sandpillar. The Hukaru died, struck by the goblin Zuspgask Dungeon Dune, the Virginal Citadel, which is a horrible name, but there you have it, in the fierce siege as part of the Bloody War. And it looks like the Hukaru was a tavern keeper, though not our tavern keeper, because I believe that was Jaxie. But let's take a look at Pinkie Pie. And you'll find that Pinkie Pie is also the mother of Doomguy, Davian, and a number of other people, but those are the 2 with names that exist in our fortresses. So that's interesting that the king of our civilization has many relations running around of our named dwarves that have been in our fortresses, which I thought was really cool. But to keep going on this, I wanted to take a look at our enemies as well, the Mangy Spider. Why would I want to do that? Well, because the Mangy Spider has a very interesting history here. Let's go to sites. Let's take a look at their capital of Hellhide. And it seems like a number of our citizens, and in general just things that take place in our fortresses, can all be traced back to Hellhide. A lot going on here, even though it doesn't necessarily talk very much about it. But one thing I thought was interesting was, if you look at, let's see here, the Citadel of Subtleties, which is where the three-eyed devil, Utheg Gutsflyer, who is the leader of their civilization, lives, and you take a look at Utheg here, you will find that Utheg is also associated with another place called Safety Phantom. Now, what's Safety Phantom? Well, Safety Phantom is a vault far to the southeast, and in this vault, it's guarding something. Now, there's 50 Kassot's servants, 25 warriors of Kassot, and 1 Kassot's harbingers. And what are they guarding? Well, it looks like they're guarding Crazed Claw, the Conqueror of Blades, which was created by Utheg and stored by Utheg in Safety Phantom. Now, Crazed Claw, the Conqueror of Blades, or Mogazur Uzad Raz, is actually a legendary basalt slab with the inscription upon it, I am Athlestagod, Scorch Grip, once of the underworld. By Kassot, I bind myself to this place. Now, I have no idea what that means, but it seems pretty interesting. So Utheg went and stored this basalt slab in Safety Phantom before then going back to the citadel that he rose all the way from the hells, like all the way from, as you'll see here, thrust a spire of Slade up from the underworld. So this is a connection from our world to the underworld. And yeah, a gateway between worlds in Helheim. And I like the name, the Citadel of Subtleties. That's really cool. So that's funny how Utheg exists twice, and also the Goblin Damstow, Torment Beguiled, the Prowler Courtesy of Soldiers. He is a fishery worker who wants to rule the world. And he's currently a noble. So he must be the... Actually, he must be the... Yeah, he is the Lord of Helheim. So he is the right-hand goblin of Utheg, the Three-Eyed Devil. So there was another thing I wanted to discuss with you, because what's interesting is when you retire a fortress, I believe it no longer belongs to the civilization in which you were in. You can tell this by toggling civilizations, and you'll notice that it includes Foresthome, our current fortress, but it does not include Sandpillar. Now, one of the reasons why I thought, well, despite this visual cue, Sandpillar is probably still part of our civilization, is because Fulgar Gorsmash, our, well, now Duchess of Sandpillar, was still listed as a noble of the Oaken Flags. But here is something really interesting that I discovered. Right after we retired the Fortress of Sandpillar, Fulgar Gorsmash actually left. And I didn't know this, I just found this out. So if you go to the capital of the Oaken Flags, the city of Mind Lightning, and it's an empty place, really even more empty than Sandpillar. It only has a population of 35 dwarves and hardly any visitors. But if you go to their tavern, known as the Spicy Eater, you will find that not only does the king, O'Newell Mountain Whip, live in the tavern, apparently, not in a palace or anything, but in the tavern, but so does the dwarf Fulgar Gorsmash. So you look down here, and you find, once you get through all of our named dwarves that knew him, or her, you'll find that Fulgar Gorsmash is still a noble of the Oaken Flags from 155 to present, but was only a noble of the Flag of Striking, which was the Sandpillar group, until 156, when we retired the fortress, and then simply became a member of the Urn of Bearing. So when we retired the Fortress of Sandpillar, we essentially disconnected it from the Oaken Flags, and the Duchess, Fulgar Gorsmash, no longer, I guess, having any political power in Sandpillar, moved to the capital of our civilization, where she's hanging out with our king in the Spicy Eater, our tavern. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So now, another thing I'd like to do is take a look overall at our civilization, right? The Oaken Flags. And you can see that we're still doing okay. It's been a rough couple decades for us, but with the establishment of Sandpillar and Foresthome, our reach has extended, though Sandpillar is no longer there, and I guess neither will be Foresthome when we retire it. But when you look at all the current leadership, what I think is kind of fun is you scroll all the way down here to the bottom, and you've got Krugsmash, the Baroness, Julius Caesar, the Baron Consort, Krugsmash's husband, and then, of course, Fulgar Gorsmash, our Duchess. So they're still members of the royalty, and so after we have a couple more fortresses, you're going to see even more of the royalty of our civilization being our own named dwarves, which is a lot of fun. So Krugsmash, look at the Krugsmash has quite a quite a family tree. Where actually is Krugsmash? Oh, there we go. Okay, Krugsmash. So Krugsmash is actually the granddaughter of the former king of the Oaken Flags, the lumbering troll Shorast Arrowcities. And there's Toulon Tameseal. Toulon Tameseal is pretty much related in some way or form to everyone, since she was one of the original rulers of our civilization. And Krugsmash actually has a child, Asen Machine Sound. Now, that child does not exist in Sandpillar, so where... or Foresthome, so where is Asen? Okay, Asen, where are you? No, I guess Asen is, yeah. Asen is living currently in Foresthome, I guess just not old enough to be named. That's very interesting. But yeah, Treed Wildness, that's the group that runs Foresthome. Yeah, I wish it would just say, and lives in Foresthome. But I guess that's too much work. I don't know. But Asen was involved in the Squeezing Assault. That's the one where, the most recent one. So Asen can't be that old, actually. Yeah, born in 164. Asen's only 2. Was Krugsmash already in our fortress at that time? We can find out by looking at Krugsmash's history here. Okay, so in 125, Krugsmash became a farmer in Blackchained, married Julius Caesar, then moved to Catch Inked, became a trader there, then decided to leave in 162. So he was there 32 years as a member of the Steamy Labours. But Krugsmash left the Steamy Labours to become a member of the Oaken Flags at Foresthome in 162. So yeah, the same year that the child was born. So the child either was born in Foresthome or just before Krugsmash settled in Foresthome. And then, of course, Krugsmash became a member of the Oaken Flags, which Krugsmash already was. So I guess it should say Krugsmash remained a member of the Oaken Flags, became a member, however, of the Tree of Wildness, the local government of Foresthome, and finally, 3 years later, in 165 late autumn, Krugsmash became the Baroness of the Oaken Flags, and the Baroness of the Tree of Wildness and Foresthome. So I thought that was really cool, that our old Duchess was living with the king, and the listing of all the nobles of our civilization also has our new Baroness, Krugsmash. Thought that was pretty cool. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you all, and it's more difficult than than you'd think, but advanced search, okay? So we're going to look at historical figures, and we want to look for historical figures who are dwarves. Okay. Once we do that, we want to add a criteria, and we want to go by... let's see, which one do I want here? Is alive, certainly. That's a good one. And then we want to do order criteria, which is hard to understand, but this is the search criteria. This is, first of all, this is the group of items of which you are searching. Now, you can select something here, but I discovered that if you do, it screws everything up. So you want to leave this one blank. Then within that group of things you're searching, this is the criteria. So we're looking for all historical figures that are dwarves and alive. And then finally, of all the historical figures that are dwarves and alive, the order criteria is we want to see them in terms of who has the most notable kills. And we want descending, paradoxically, because that just means the most is on top and it gets lower. So we do a search, and there we go. All the living dwarves who have the most kills. And the first one on the list from our named dwarf contingent is Bullzome, Lashed Touches the Boring Knife, who has 8 notable kills, followed by Kaladin, Tongs Moistened, the Calamity of Trades, who has 6. Unfortunately, after those two, we do not have any named dwarves that are titled, that have a title after their name, although Gregor Stoneside down here does have 4 notable kills, Throthgrad also 4 notable kills, and of course Vant Vamperson has 3 notable kills, despite the millions of regular kills that he has. Then we have to go further down. We have Garmet with 3, Grugtar, also with 3. And then we have a ton of people with 3. Ingramish, Redbeard, Juris, Fat Hog, Alaric. There's Logan Stonehilt, the leader of Stonehilt Slayers, with 2 notable kills, been involved in 8 battles. And you can look at this other ways. Like, say we don't want to know notable kills. Just say we want to notice which one... Let's see. Which one was involved in the most battles, let's say. Okay, Nexus Lay, one of our named dwarves, was involved in 21 battles, along with Gwendolyn and Pycon. Then we go to 20 battles with Nenton, Eratia, Cassiterides. So with this tool, you can learn a lot of stuff about the dwarves, although I find that some of the stuff is not true. Like, for example, the associated type is not current. For example, Kaladin is currently, his profession is Kaladin, but it says Woodcrafter. So it must draw from a different field than what their actual name profession is, or it doesn't count professions to create yourself. And there's other data here, like how many events they were involved in, beast attacks, but that's not entirely useful. And I think the beast attacks field actually means how many attacks a person made as a beast. Because obviously a lot of these dwarves have survived beast attacks, but it says 0. So that means that, I think it means that if you were a beast, this is how many attacks you have made. Which, of course, none of our dwarves are beasts. They're dwarves. So that wouldn't happen. But it's interesting to kind of look at our people in terms of this. And you do other fun stuff too. Like, for example, let's see who the oldest dwarves are. So let's see. Age. So, okay, Ushrir here is 236 years old. Okay, but let's look and see who our first named dwarf is. Like, who our oldest named dwarf. I think we might be going for a while here. I don't want to go so fast that I miss one. There we go. Vargas. Vargas is 149 years old and apparently is the oldest dwarf of all of our named dwarves, followed very shortly by Calum. And Calum must have been born days or months afterwards because he's the same age as Vargas. Then we got a couple more. We have Veilstorm here, who's at 148. Traden, 146, and so on and so forth. So this is a fun little tool that you can kind of explore. If we want to quickly go back to the map of the world here, thank you, we can kind of get an idea for how things have been since we last looked at the history. We last looked at the history actually in 163, so not too long ago. You can see here that in 163, the Empire of Glens, the human Empire of Glens, was making a play for this area. And the Empire of Confederacy also, for some reason, made a play up north here. But all that fell to nothing, as you could see. All the Empire of Glens places disappeared. And as of 166, the Empire of Glens is gone, and the Empire of Confederacy is back down here where they always were. And this area up here is free of their presence. So it appears that the more things change, ladies and gentlemen, the more things stay the same in Enthador. Though we, the Oaken Flags, have suffered more than our share, and the Mangy Spider have just become more and more powerful, despite how many hundreds of them I have killed. Or, according to this program, how many tens of them I have killed. And I went to the wrong place there. I want to go to Foresthome, please. Thank you. Yeah, 7 deaths, 4, 7, 50. That's the best one here. The Scraped Onslaught, we took out 15. Or actually, no, we didn't. We took out 8, and we lost 7 of our own. We know who, yeah, Mistamage. Mistamage fell in that. As did Fodden Meinhardt. As did Homer and Tellor. Ukor Steelclaw. Alundril. Really? They all died in the attack? I could swear that they must have died from something else, but I guess, yeah. I guess they died in the attack. That's very weird. And it was a very short distance. It actually came from right next to us. What? I was in 163. Come on, give me some extra years here. Oh, it won't do it. It won't do it. Let's get rid of the Scraped Onslaught. Let's go back to the map. Alright, so yeah, for some reason it looks like the Mangy Spiders made a play here against the Elves. There they are. They took some of the Elves' land. They used that as a springboard to attack Foresthome, but apparently either beating themselves against the rocks of Foresthome and getting killed, or some war with the Carmine Saffron caused them to diminish and return home to the east. So that is the current state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen, of Enthador. Not too much has changed, honestly, but I'm sad to see that Sandpillar isn't actually considered a fortress of the Oaken Flags anymore, though I am happy also to see that it still stands strong and proud, though a bit less inhabited than when we knew it. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Marcus Aurelius. I'd like to thank you very much for watching this series. Please have a good one.